to this episode of Raising Killin, the podcast to motivate, inspire, and educate parents raising kids with special needs. I'm your host, Marsh Naidu, and today we are joined by Todd Williams, who is a doctor of physical therapy. Todd as well has mild cerebral palsy, and we are joined by Drake Box as well. Drake actually joined us on the first podcast episode. Drake, welcome.
I appreciate you.
Todd, welcome as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Todd actually blogs on ptwithcp.com, where he journals his travels as a physical therapist, as well as sharing his story. Now, mind you, he also shares the story of some other young adults as well, which is exceptionally motivating and inspiring to me as a mom. Todd, I read the blog, so I was trying to figure out, did you get to run the New York Marathon?
Yes, I did. I know I need to post. I have like a post for it, and it wasn't what I wanted because there was so much that I felt. And then I was like, I need to produce something that I felt. But then all of a sudden, COVID-19, I had all this other stuff in my life. And so it was like, hold on a second. I went from working, 40 hours a week to 80 hours a week really quick and doing all these different things. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to hold off on this. I have it. I'm ready to post it, but there's a few other things that I want to do to it because it did mean so much to me. But yes, I did complete it. I did it. But yeah, it's not the actual summary of running the marathon isn't there. And I feel bad because I was like, I wanted to do this so quickly. But I mean, the turnaround with that. So to give you a little perspective, I ran that marathon and then went straight back to work. And then from there started traveling, and I went to Ireland. I did this other trip with my sister and just so many different things that happened. And so I just didn't really have a lot of time to write what I wanted to write. I could have put something out there, but I'm like, no. I want it to be like, this is the end of it. Like, I really want to get all of it out there because I journaled a lot. And so what I'm going to post is basically just the thought process of my journals and putting it into something that other people can actually read, not just whatever.
I understand this. Todd, I love your tagline, traveling PT with CP, learning how to move more and in the process of teaching others to do the same.
That's the goal right there.
Todd, tell us a little bit about your origin story. You grew up in Sacramento and take us on.
Yeah. So, I mean, at first I wasn't diagnosed with CP. It didn't come until I was about 5 or so where they're like, oh, this is what officially was going on. But all along they knew something. It just took a little bit to get there. But yeah, so I grew up in a small town right outside of Sacramento. And, there had a very good support system with my family, especially my mom, really supporting me and telling me, I can do these things and putting me in sports and doing everything. And hey, you could do whatever you set your mind to, just go and try, and not treating me like a different child. So I have 2 younger siblings, but, I also grew up with 3 other cousins. And so the 6 of us together is really who I grew up with. And yeah, I wasn't treated like anyone else. So I played baseball, I did soccer, I did basketball. And, when the time came, I was snowboarding, I got into hiking. In high school, I did, cross country and track. So I did distance running. And that's really where I was able to see the difference of exercise and nutrition and how that can affect your body and how to make changes based on that. And so, growing up doing physical therapy and then competing at a sport where I can improve myself and see those results is what kind of led me to, physical therapy. I knew I wanted to help people in some way, but I didn't really know, how to do it. And that's kind of how it went. It's well, I see changes in myself based on this, and went from there. And so went through the whole process. And so now I'm a physical therapist. And actually, just recently, 2 days ago, found out I got my NCS. So that means I'm a board certified neurospecialist.
Yeah,
so
that's a big deal, dude.
Yeah, 3 years in the making. Thank you. And so yeah, that's just another part of the process, being able to deliver the best possible care to my patients, and, kind of having everything. Something I talk about a lot is, one of the things that I love is that the more that I learn, the more that I can help others. The more that I help others, the more that I can help myself. The more that I help myself, the more that I learn. And it just keeps going. And it's a really nice process. It's a really nice circle. And so it's really cool to be in the position that I'm in. I'm very grateful for it. Because it's cool. It's nice to be here.
Well, listen, while reading your blog, I got to find out something. A marathon actually is 26 miles. Todd, I can't imagine. So what has driven you to run a marathon, my brother?
Yeah, well, so, that's always been on my bucket list. So it's been something that's like, since I was a distance runner, I was like, it'd be cool to do a marathon just because, like, I don't know, it's a cool thing. I'm like, that'd be cool to complete a marathon. And, so after high school, I didn't continue to compete in any like significant way. I just did it for fun. And then, I started thinking, so I turned 30 this past May, and I started thinking, like, all right, what do I want to do before I turn 30? Just because, like, it's just a fun milestone, and I'd like to challenge myself. Like, what do I want to accomplish? I'm like, well, I've always wanted to run a marathon, so like better now than ever. So I started, a year before and started a blog because of that. So that's why I started the blog, was because of the marathon. And so I ran for Achilles International. And so they're an organization that helps people of all ability levels participate in exercise, primarily running, by providing support groups or different people like guides, and getting them into different races like the New York City Marathon, and being able to give them support and allow those people to participate in things like that. And so I'm like, yes, this is what I'm all about. And so in order to raise awareness both about cerebral palsy, but then also Achilles International, and then running, and then share my story, that's, I was like, all right, I gotta start a blog or do something. But yeah, that was the motivation. I was just like, I want to do something, but I wanted to be more than just about running a marathon. So it became running a marathon for this organization, but then also providing, some insight and some awareness about what cerebral palsy is, trying to share other people's stories as much as I can. That's what I want to transition to, really. You talked about it, and that's what I want to transition to, is really sharing stories of mobility. And I've been trying to work out the kinks of it, but it's getting there.
I love that. So guys, I really encourage you to hop on to ptwithcp.com to hear some of these stories that Todd talks about in his blog.
Thank you.
Where did you do your undergraduate? And tell us a little bit about that part of things.
So, I'm the first one in my family to go to college. And so I was kind of figuring things out, like, all right, what do I need to do to get there? And so after high school, I was like, all right, I know I'm going to go for at least, 7 to 8 years. That's what it's going to take to get there. So I started by going to a community college, just near. So I lived at home, went to community college, spent 2 years there, and got most of my prerequisites done for grad school. But all of my thinking and my process was around like, okay, what's going to set me up best for grad school? And so that's how I picked my undergraduate. And so I transferred after 2 years, and after looking around, so I found Azusa Pacific University. It's just a small university down in Southern California. But they had a really, really high rate of people that went there that got into their medical field of choice afterwards. And so I was like, perfect, this is great. It was something crazy, like 97%. So I was like, all right, this is where I'm going to apply. This is where I'm going to go. So I went there, graduated there. And then from there went to Wingate University, which is in North Carolina. So just south of, I don't know, actually, of Charlotte. So outside, just another small school, but it was great. It was great to go there and to be a part of all of that. And then from there, I decided like, okay, I want to work in a neuro rehab hospital and do exactly what I want to do. I was contemplating, do I want to do travel therapy or do I want to do neuro? Because I felt like I couldn't have both. Because that first that first experience is very important. So I was like, you know what? I only get one chance at a first time. So I'm going to do exactly what I want. So I applied to all the top neuro rehab hospitals in the country. And luckily, Kessler was like, hey, we'd love to have you. So I went to Kessler Rehab Institute there in New Jersey. And spent my first 2 years there. And then from there, started traveling.
So this is a big question, Todd.
Yeah.
How on earth did you make it through anatomy?
Oh my goodness. It was so hard. So funny story. So my first anatomy class back in undergrad, I got a B in, and like prerequisites, they're a big deal, especially the science ones. They want A's. And so I didn't get into graduate school right away. So it took me some time to get there. So I didn't get in until like a couple months after I had graduated. And so I started in a January start. So immediately after I graduated from Azusa Pacific, I started I graduated on a Friday. On Monday, I started a new anatomy class to replace that B with an A. And so, it was tough. It was tough to get through. Let me tell you.
Not easy.
It took me a second round. It took me a second round to get that A, but it was there. And with the right amount of time and just focus, you'll get it. But it's tough.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. See, like in high school, I was good at science. I was good at biology, good at all that stuff. So I thought A&P in college wasn't going to be a cakewalk, but I figured, okay, if I focus really hard and try, I can get it. Well, I focused really hard and I really tried. Ended with a C. So I was like, yeah, this isn't going to fly. So I said, I got to do this again. But I decided to wait till I go to my 4-year college, because I did graduate with my associates in pre-physical therapy, because I'm going to be I'm planning to be a pediatric PTA and work with kids at Shriners Hospital, because that's where I had all of my surgery for my CP done. So I see. Just to be able to give back to them for how much they did to me. So, but anyway, I decided to, have a change of scenery and then go back into the A&P program, because I feel like I was going to go crazy if I had the same teacher and the same, system. So, I don't know how to go about it, but it's a work in progress for sure.
But I promise you that A&P is like a rite of passage. No one wants to do it, but you kind of have to do it. Yeah. But somehow you get through it.
Yes.
It's a struggle.
Just do it. It is. It's about finding like the right way, the right methods that work for you. I'm not great at school, but over time I got better, because that's what I had to, and, you find out what works for you. You keep trying, you might fail a couple times, but eventually you get that just right path. You're like, all right, cool. This is what I need to do. And then it just clicks and you just ride that wave.
Todd, so where are you working at now? Are you working in a hospital setting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'll start officially Monday. So there's been a lot of transition for me recently, but I work now. I'm transitioning to permanent at a position here in Los Angeles. That's why I just moved here. And so I'm at an inpatient rehabilitation facility here, and it's all neuro. There's a few other things, but for the most part, it's all neuro. And so that's what we specialize in, and that's what we do, and that's what I was looking for. And so when I got out of travel, I said, it has to be like the perfect job. Like I need to be paid enough to live in the area that I'm at to make my financial goals. I have to be treating the patients that I want to be treating, and there has to be opportunities for research. And this job met all of those criteria. And so here I am, getting out of travel to start this. So I'm excited to kind of, start Monday.
Hi guys, we're going to take a short break, so grab yourself a cup of coffee if you like. This episode was recorded on the 4th of July weekend, so we wish our American friends a peaceful and safe Independence Day. Earlier in the podcast, Todd describes getting ready to run the New York Marathon. With reflection, I realized that this is exactly the type of mindset that's needed with raising Kellen. A mindset of running a marathon versus a sprint. It is this experience as well as others that we are getting ready to share with you in an upcoming book called What I Wish I Knew Back Then, which will launch at the end of July. So guys, without further ado, let's get back to Todd. Okay. The question I think that's most on my mind, Todd, relates to spasticity and how difficult that gets on your body as we age.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? What is your advice? What are some of the tools that you have used to manage that spasticity?
So, luckily I do have, I have mild spastic cerebral palsy. It mostly affects my left side, although I don't know if you saw it, but some of the videos from the marathon, I might need to send it to you, but it also affects my right side as well. So for me, how I manage it is through a lot of exercise. I do have chronic pain because of it, because you feel that muscle tightness, that pulling, it's kind of always there. So to give you an example, real quick, run through, I walk with a limp, I run with a limp. It's noticeable. It's something that I can't hide, but I am able to walk without an assistive device. I don't, by the end of the day, I end up tripping more, or I get, more fatigued, but for the most part, I can complete every activity that I need to. My threshold's a little bit higher. And even so, I'm completing things like running and I just started cycling to my bike here a little bit, and working out and things like that. That's been my biggest thing to battle spasticity, really, is exercise. So a lot of what I do is, I talk about in a lot of my blog is my mobility routine, and so it's a lot of exercises that focus on the things that I need, things like external rotation at the hip, or hamstring lengthening, or quad strength, or and it's all done within a functional way. So it's I want to do, so I set goals for myself. I would like to do a pike push-up, and then go into a handstand. And so now I'm working on lengthening my hamstrings so that I can get into those positions, and lengthening my hip and other things so I can do that. But it's not just, I'm going to stretch the hip, or, I'm going to stretch my hamstrings. I'm going to do this exercise that's going to allow me to do that. And that's how I deal with a lot of the spasticity, is through exercise. One other thing that I do that helps me as a modality is I'm lucky enough to have I've got a BioNess unit that I use, and I use it very off-label. Very, very off-label. So I've got it programmed. So luckily I can program it, and I have people that I know through BioNess that I can program this. And for those of you that are listening, a BioNess unit is a functional electrical stimulation unit. So think of something, so my brain has trouble sending signals down to my leg. Think of it as an extra brain. So it's sending signals to my leg, basically, to perform the activities of walking, or I change it to do different stuff. So I have it programmed to do running and weight training. But those are things that just aren't set up into it. But luckily, I have people that I can work with it. So yeah, it's another thing that I do, is electrical stimulation in order to get into different movements. But really, that's just a supplement. Number one is exercise. The other thing is just a supplement.
So, not to.
No, I want you to.
Go ahead, please.
But so we sound like very in common when it comes to our CP diagnosis, because like you said, your left side's affected. My left side, my left legs, because that's mainly the thing that's affected with my spastic CP as well, because I have mild spastic cerebral palsy as well. But my left side, like you said, you walk with a limp. I walk with a limp, but it's most noticeable towards the end of my workday, or if I'm just not focusing on how I walk, because I have to focus on every step that I take so that I don't walk with a limp, because if I do, for one, I'm kind of self-conscious about it. For two, I can trip very easily, hurt myself a lot worse. But one thing I've been struggling with here a lot recently, after a long day at work, so I'm up on my feet 24/7 because I work at a grocery store. I stock shelves. I'm running around the store, doing all that good stuff. But my legs don't hurt during the day nearly as bad as when I get home and I lay down to go to sleep. And they start hurting extremely bad. They'll start feel like a stinging / burning pain or sensation, whatever, And I was wondering, I was like, what's the deal here? Because this hasn't been like a forever thing. It's just kind of started up recently. And I've had a few speculations, but I mean, have you ever felt anything like that? Is that something you've dealt with before? Or?
I mean, yeah, there's always some sort of low grade like pain for me. Like it's chronic, like it's there all the time. I wake up with it, I go to bed with it. It's just there. It ebbs and flows. So like, yeah, like you were saying during your work day, like I don't notice it. When I'm working out, I, for the most part, don't notice it. When I go to sleep, yeah. I wake up from it because it's there. And for me, at least what I think it is, what I am like theorizing is it's the spasticity. So it's just that muscle that continues to fire and continues to pull on those joints and on those ligaments to then kind of cause that pain. And it, unfortunately, as someone with cerebral palsy, we age faster. So our bodies, it's going to take a toll on our bodies in one way or another. So, I do feel that, that same kind of thing. But for me, like, it's just keeping up with my exercises. What I tell my patients really is like, and what it feels like for me too, is I give the analogy of kind of holding, playing a game of tug of war, where you're on one side and cerebral palsy's on the other, and you've got to hold the line every day. And every day you don't get worse is a win. And every day you pull just a little bit, maybe an inch, that's a win, because like you just got to hold it, and then you got to do the things that you need to do to kind of hold it there. But yeah, so I feel you. I feel that same thing. And I think for me, what I'm discovering now, and so that's one of the reasons why I got a bike, was because, after running so much and really putting myself at this higher level of intensity, I've always had hip pain, and not due to spasticity. So it's early onset osteoarthritis. And yeah, after running the marathon and really not necessarily running the marathon, it was doing all the training for the marathon, logging all those miles, I really had some hip pain that, I mean, by the end of my workday, like there was times where my hip would like almost give out, like it felt like. And so what I've done a lot of different things to strengthen it and do different stuff. And I found that I can't just give up endurance training. Like I love it too much. And so that's why I got the bike. And really, it's been so much better. Like I haven't had any of those feelings of instability and that pain that was there because of the overuse injuries, and just kind of the toll that I put on my body. It's much, much better now. But that's what I find more so than, I guess, the spasticity getting worse. It's the chronic overuse injuries that when I was younger, I could just stop doing something for like a day or a weekend, it would go away. And now it's like, no, it's here and you have to deal with it and figure it out.
Besides rest, how else do you recover? Todd, what's in your toolbox for recovery?
Oh yeah. So for me, like functional mobility, I know it's that's a hype term. I know that's like a term that everyone uses. It doesn't really mean a lot, but what I mean by that is, I'm doing some things that like I'm going to feel good through. So I'm going to do things like, whether it's a bridge, it's like a certain stretch, but it's all through movement. So maybe I'll go through like a yoga routine. It's very much like a yoga routine kind of thing. Or, just like a walk or like something to get my heart rate up. And then I go through like a stretching session and things like that, but it's very low level. So when I say like, if I'm resting, I'm using like low intensity levels, and how I define intensity levels is based off of heart rate. So I use like, I keep my heart rate down to a certain percentage, like at least 40% or below. And then I kind of work through different things. And I don't even come close to other stuff. If we're talking about strength, like 1 rep max calculations and things like that, I come much, much lower just to get some movement. And that helps. Movement helps me so much. Like if I just rest and like lay in bed all day, no, it's much worse.
Nutrition, Todd, any tips on nutrition?
I mean, as it relates to cerebral palsy, not much. I mean, for me, like I haven't noticed a big difference in what I eat and how it affects my spasticity or the way that I walk or the way that I do things, but it does affect my performance. So if I can dial it in right, and if I can, eat more of the right things, and avoid some of the things that I don't want to be doing. So one of the things my coach told me when I was in high school was like, hey, if you stop drinking soda, you will get faster. was like, all right, cool. Let's see what happens. And so I stopped and I was so much faster. I was like, cool. That was like one little thing. And so I've been on a continued pursuit of that. But really there's nothing that I found that I'm like, oh, this has been something that's been really cool nutrition wise that helps my CP more so my performance in sports. And, am I eating enough of the right foods, enough fruits and vegetables and things? I eat mostly a plant-based diet. 90% of what I eat is a plant-based diet. And it's not because of any one way or the other. It's just what I like to eat. And that really, when I stick to that, my performance goes through the roof.
I love your travel escapades. You have been everywhere, haven't you? Listen, I had to write it down because I haven't even heard of half of these places. What was this? Is it the Salcantay Trek? Where is that?
Yeah, Salcantay. Yeah, that's so the Salcantay Trek is so think of the Inca Trail in Peru. Yeah. So you start in Cusco, you go to Machu Picchu, but instead of doing the Inca Trail, which you have to have a guide for, me and my friends just went just us. So no guide, no porters. We arrived in Cusco and just kind of went for it, which is what we would rather do because each of us have been backpacking and love to be outdoors and different stuff. So it was a really cool way to experience that country. But yeah, so the Salcantay Pass is like the Inca Trail in Peru, except it's a little just not as populated, not as many people, not as popular. And yeah, it was like we did it in 4 days. It was 3 nights, 4 days.
Where to next, Todd? What's up?
Oh my goodness. Well, so right now, actually I was supposed to be somewhere right now. So it was so funny. So with my 30th birthday in May, and my sister, she was graduating college at the same time. We were supposed to go to Spain and do the Camino de Santiago. And then I was going to so that was going to take us about 6 weeks. And then I was going to stay in Spain for at least 3 months so I could work on my Spanish, because that's something that I really want to get. Traveling, a lot of the time I was like, I spent a lot of time in Texas and in South Texas. And so a lot of my patients mostly spoke Spanish. And that was so good to like really learn and get into it. But I was like, man, I really want to get this. And, Spain's always been on my list. But then, pandemic. So that's not happening. But eventually, yes. So I don't have any plans right now as far as traveling goes. I'm going to stick around. Luckily, the LA area has a lot of cool outdoor stuff that is nearby that I can drive to within like 30 minutes to like 6 hours away. Like recently I was in Zion. And luckily, like I have all my backpacking gear and stuff. So I don't have to like be near anyone. I can just get on my bike and just ride, as opposed to like staying in hotels or doing things like that. Like I just camp out on the side of the road and things like that. So more trips like that are in the future, but I don't have any big plans right now. I'm going to wait for this pandemic to kind of settle.
So we're going to have to keep posted and check out PT with CP and check out for those latest adventures.
See what happens next. I'm excited for the next one.
Todd, I can't thank you enough for coming onto the show and sharing your story with us. And your adventures and your zest for life. I will make sure that all of those social handles go onto the blog so our parents and other listeners out there can follow you and check the blog out.
Cool.
Are there any last words, sir, that you would like to end off with?
I get one of my big things, and what I like to work with my patients and anyone that I also work with is, anyone that's listening to this, be curious about your movement. It doesn't matter like where you're at. It doesn't matter if you've got something on that makes movement more difficult or nothing at all, or you haven't moved a lot in the recent times, but get curious about your movement. I feel like that's so important. I don't think people are curious enough about how they move and what they do. They get set in patterns and in ways of this is what it is and this is what I'm stuck with. But you're not. Your body is so adaptable and it can change over time. It's not going to change in a day. It's not going to change in a week. You might see a little bit of change in a month, but you keep doing that and it's going to make a big difference. So yeah, just get curious.
All right. Well, Todd, we thank you. And I don't know what else to say. I'm just excited about meeting you. And I
really appreciate it, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, this is
kind of just like me in a sense.
Yeah. No, I love this. And that's what I wanted with my Instagram and with my blog, is I wanted to reach more people, because like I had so many cool experiences on a individual level with patients, with like friends, and with like other things where I'm like, how can I make this like more? Like, how can I like do this more? Because I get so much out of this. Like, I love like meeting you guys and being able to talk about stuff. And then like your listeners, like, you know, I'm just telling my like simple story, but then like they get to, you know, hear something, and then I get to connect with them. I mean, that's just so cool. I mean, it's wonderful. So this is what I really wanted this to be, is stuff like this. I'm really glad to be a part of all this and so grateful for it. So thank you. Thank both of you.
Wow, Todd Williams, what an inspiration and role model you are to your patients and our kids. Guys, definitely show Todd some love by checking out his blog, ptwithcp.com, and his Instagram is ptwithcp. If you enjoy the content we are bringing you, please hit that like button and give us a review on your podcast provider. I promise to read your review on our upcoming shows. I will be posting link to Todd's blog on our website at raisingkillen.org, as well as some of his beautiful pictures from his travel escapades. Guys, thank you for joining us today. We sincerely appreciate you. Thank you for listening and sharing the message of our podcast. We look forward to seeing you again. And as always, remember, get to the top of your mountain. This is Marsh Naidu signing off.